So this afternoon, I really want to welcome two amazing folks in this chat. Vicki Saylor is my colleague. She is the regional manager for Common Sense Media. She oversees all education initiatives in Arizona and Arizona region. Vicki, you want to have a little shout out? You want to say a little bit more about yourself and what makes you smile today?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm so happy that you're here with us today. As Jamie mentioned, I'm the regional manager for education in Arizona. So I work with schools and parents predominantly in the public schools, and also I do a lot of Latino outreach. So been here a little over a year. It's amazing. It's an amazing organization. My team is amazing. So hope you guys get a little feel of that. What that culture is like here too. And we're so happy to have Arcelia here. Thank you so much. And for all you other educators out there and parent liaisons, promotoras, chime into the chat and let us know how you're feeling. Let us know some of the tips and strategies that you use that are helping you as well. So welcome.
Thanks, Vicki. And I have the honor to present and provide you some context. So we have with us Arcelia Gonzalez. Arcelia is the Oakland Unified School District's most renowned, I would say, family liaison. I know I'm building you up. Her work focuses on primarily working with English language learners and their families to define a welcoming school environment, as well as a practice. She also builds capacity in partnership with teachers and staff and principals. When she's not working, students can, Arcelia is apparently an amazing cook. I have yet to have any meals from her, but she loves the cuisines from Mexico. So Arcelia, I just want to welcome you and embrace your presence. So how are you? You want to say a little bit about yourself, more than what we have, anything that you're thinking about?
Thank you, sure. So hi everyone. Like Jamie, Vicki said, my name is Arcelia Gonzalez. I am the Family Engagement Liaison in Oakland Unified School District, and I mostly support English learner families. I've been here in the district for 15 years now. Last week was my anniversary, yay! But I'm also a, excuse me, a parent, a grandparent in Oakland Unified, and it's a pleasure to be here. Hopefully, whatever I can share with you guys today is helpful, and we're all in this together. So yeah.
You're amazing. I appreciate that. So I first met Arcelia at a parent presentation that I did in Oakland, and I had about 20 minutes, I think we remember, to share with a number of teachers about digital citizenship. And I remember walking out thinking, wow, that was the quickest presentation I've ever done to teachers. And I remember you walking out and I thought you were going to tackle me because you're like, wait a minute, you have to connect with my families, right? And I remember like your presence, and I still sort of really appreciate the way and your vigor and your dedication to families. So to that, I really want to start us and really showcase what the essence of today is, and that is how to reach our most underserved families and communities. And so as I think about it, and I think about the backdrop that there's most of the schools here in California are shut down for what seems to be the year, I really just want to start by really getting the pulse, the emotional pulse. So Arcelia, working so closely with families, I'm really just curious, like, how are you doing? Like, how is this all impacting you as a person, as a family liaison? Like, how is everything going for you? How are you feeling?
Well, it's been really tough, especially because part of my work is building parent capacity since ground level. And it means to me that I have to get to know the family from academically problems, kind of family problems. So it's kind of getting to know the family around the whole child, right? If I want to support students, I need to know what's going on in school and at home. So that means I really get to know the families and what they're going through in their lives, not just in school, but at home. And knowing those families, I know they're struggling because I know a family that has no internet, and I know a family that it's a single mom dealing with, raising their kids. So what we're going through right now is having a huge impact in our whole community, but mostly in those more vulnerable, right? We have a lot of undocumented families here in Oakland. As you probably heard, we are a sanctuary district, and we protect those that come from their countries looking for a better life. And reaching out to all the partners in the district takes a lot of work. And then just like knowing what that family is going through in their lives makes it more personal.
Yeah.
So it's been really hard.
I see that on
yeah,
that.
it's really hard.
I empathize with that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Arcelia, for your perspective. You did mention quite a few really good points, getting to know your families, communication, some of the struggles. Can you elaborate more on those struggles and what you're seeing more now? You know, maybe even kids that have, you know, special needs. What about their social emotional learning? Have you heard how your families are, you know, facing these challenges? Have you heard exactly in this time, especially, what have you been hearing, and what are you focusing on mostly right now?
Mm-hmm. So just to clarify, in our district, we are kind of divided into several networks, right? We have 3 elementary schools networks. We have middle school network and high school network. And I support one of the elementary networks, which is the network that holds most of the schools that are doing the dual immersion program. And that, I mean, to me, it's like very dear to my heart because I connect a lot with our Latino families.
Yeah.
And we have everything in every single network, from undocumented families, from special needs families. Like I said, like the higher need is out there, right? So for instance, you mentioned, how do we support special needs families? And like I said, it's really hard, but I'm lucky to say that in our network, we have currently like weekly meetings with all the network partners. And that means partners is like they're supporting behavioral health and positive behavior and attendance, English learners, family engagement. So all the partners that support those areas, we meet weekly with our network superintendent. And we discuss about how is our work going to impact those specific families, right? We have to communicate with the partners from special ed so that they are on the same page supporting those families with higher needs. We need to get together to brainstorm about how many resources are needed in certain schools. How can we connect to all those resources ourselves so that we can provide it as easy as possible for families? Many of our undocumented families, they fall into several categories. You know, they're undocumented, English learners, special needs, and they don't speak the language. So they have these dialects that we need to find other people, you know, probably outside our network to support those areas as well. So it's kind of like connecting. And I think I mentioned it before in a different conversation. We have to make sure that we build a net connecting all the people that will support a single family. And that's part of our work.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Do you notice that, I mean, there are more basic needs that the underserved families are really grappling with during this time? I think we had a conversation about just basic communication, right? Like what sort of specifics have you sort of noticed in the transition to distant learning? You know, because what we see is that schools are wanting to get technology and tech access to these families, but what are some of the barriers to that you're seeing that, you know, we'll eventually talk about solutions, but in terms of that distribution, what is that? What are the
that's a really good question. Like I mentioned before, part of my job is making sure that I build parents' capacity by coming to the school sites, partnering with the principals and teachers, and literally coaching the families, coaching them on how to do, how to outreach for their rights, right? So when I do parent workshops, I guide families, I teach families anything that they would like to hear about, like tips for reading, but they also need to hear or learn about how to navigate in the system, not necessarily only using a device to log into the website, but guiding them in, this is what your rights are and this is what you ask for. And in those rights, we notice how limited those families are. So part of my job as well is to embrace those families and teach them how to create a Google account, how to find resources online. And that's probably one of the highest needs right now. Not the most important one, if you ask me. As a parent, I think that we are focused right now on making sure that our families have meals, to support their kids at home. There's a lot of people right now in Oakland who lost their jobs, and these families are in a high need to bring food to the table. So that's our main priority, making sure we're getting fed.
And it sounds like that, just as we transition into what specific ways in which we address that, I think it sounds like the first stage would be just meeting the most basic needs, right? And what role do you think, or what role do you feel like the school district or any school district per se can have in addressing those needs? Is it around communication and supplying those resources? Like, so two questions for you. One is, how is Oakland Unified, or how are you sort of seeing that the school districts and educators can actually meet those needs? And then B, do you sort of offer any strategy on like, what are the best ways to do that?
Well, I guess one of those is connections. Yeah, it's great to have great connections with other people, outsiders, organizations. Just having those connections will help you bring those resources to the house. Oakland Unified right now is really focused on making sure that families have meals and a device for students to keep getting their distance learning. And as a matter of fact, I think next week we will be working, or it's already scheduled, but we will be supporting schools with scheduling grab and go kind of devices. So they're going to provide families with Chromebooks for students to do their work, but also there is a schedule already happening since we went into shelter in place, providing meals for families. They just come, grab a whole meal, and they leave, right? And that keeps happening. I think it's 2 or 3 days a week. So those two are the essentials right now for us, providing meals and a device for students so that they can work at home with their current curricular, learning.
So I'm going to throw a wrench in all this really quick. And I'm sorry, really quick, but I'd really like, so I'm a family member that maybe I'm a newcomer into the country or new into the space, and maybe my contact isn't accurate, or I'm not registered on the school side. Like, how do you best reach me if I'm not perhaps reachable, or my contact isn't maybe aligned? Like, what do you do, right?
Yeah, what are some tips and strategies? Do you have like websites or apps that you use to communicate? Like you mentioned, it's important to communicate, but how are you communicating to your parents, and how are you delivering that message to them? You can pick up the Chromebooks, and then also internet access. Are you helping them find those resources?
Whoa, there's a lot of information to answer that.
There is a lot.
25 questions for you, Arcelia.
Right.
And you got 1 minute to answer this.
Your favorite top ways of reaching parents: apps, text, phone calls. How do you reach your parents?
Right. So, well, if you ask me, my favorite way is in person, obviously, but that's not possible right now. So I'm calling families. I'm the family engagement liaison for a network of 18 schools, but here I am at home making phone calls for schools, right? So I'm really, and I'm blessed to say this, but I'm really connected with principals and teachers, but mostly with families. And I have access to our ARIES, which is our system for the students' files. And I don't get this person doesn't have a current number, right? I go into the system and I find a contact list. So I'm making phone calls to the aunt, to the grandparent, to the, you know, I need to make sure that I connect with that family. I want to make sure that we reach out to that family and connect for support. And I've been talking to friends of parents of the student, you know, not necessarily only to the parents, but we do use other several ways to communicate with families. There's one that is mainly the one that people is using right now is Talking Points. We are partnering with Talking Points since, I want to say, probably 2 or 3 years ago. This year has been mostly more of the schools that are signing up. And the way they work is that, I don't remember how many languages they have, but they translate text messages to families. So let's just say that I'm a teacher. I want to text families in my classroom. I can send out resources, individual text messages in English. Those families will get them in their home language. They reply back in their home language, and it will translate it in English for me. So that's
amazing.
It is amazing. It's a great resource because I don't only need to text a message, but I can add, as a teacher, some resources for the student, links, documents, pictures, anything that I know the parent will benefit from. And that's what the teachers are using right now. There's another organization that we're also partnering with. It's called FastTac, and it's mostly about curricular, right? It's curricular, so that's used for teachers. That it is used by teachers for lessons, lesson plans, homework, assignments. It's mostly for that, not necessarily just to text back and forth, but it's also another great resource. And we have our own texting system, a school messenger in OUSD, which is used for phone calls, emails, and text messages. So yeah, for me,
and
I think what works better is just talking and with the person, even if it's on the phone. So
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now you talked about empowering. You talked about empowering your families, which is so important. And is there, after you teach them how to use the computer and Google, do you have a site, a professional site or a personal site, a website or anything where they can contact you, or where you can keep all this information in one place for those parents that do have accessibility and want to stay engaged?
Yeah, in our district, we have our district website, but I'm part of the Office of Equity. So in our team, our office is Office of Equity, and I'm part of the Family Engagement team. We have our own link within the website in OUSD, and families can definitely reach out to us. They can check out our work in our website, and we have our bios in there. You know, they can email us. But I personally have my own WhatsApp groups that I created. So I meet our families.
You do WhatsApp. Huh?
I love it.
Amazing.
It's all about connecting with the families, right? So whatever it takes. I've been helping teachers to make phone calls, and families end up talking to me about other stuff, and that's okay. You know, if that's what they need, welcome. They end up asking me if they can save my number for future things. I said, yeah, go ahead, but you will hear from me. When I have a meeting, I'm going to invite you, you know?
I promise I won't share your WhatsApp on the chat, but if
I love it.
But I do want to bring it back to what you said, which is one is around effective communication, right? You mentioned talking points in WhatsApp, but that communication is key during this time, right? And being able to address that. Can I push you a little further in what communication looks like beyond distributing technology and making the experience helpful? What type of communication is the most helpful for underserved families? Like what language, what rhetoric, what type of narrative would you recommend for others that are just starting out with distance learning? Like, if I'm a teacher and maybe I'm not accustomed to the language or the culture, what should I be thinking about? So,
right. And that's really good to know and practice. I'm going to tell you a funny story, very short one, but I talked to a principal the other day, and we were talking about how some teachers are being very successful in talking to their families and some others are not. And I get along with that principal, you know, and we're very good friends. And I can actually say, I told you so, and I did. So I've been talking to that principal about partnering with us and you know, use our resources for family engagement. And I kind of got a pushback at the beginning, and I kept insisting, partner with us. I'm gonna come and support you. I'm gonna get you all, like, give you all my love and all that stuff. And she will laugh at me. We became very good friends, but we both noticed that some of her teachers were using a lot of ways and strategies to communicate with families. And one particular teacher didn't want to do that, right? And that teacher never got like parents participating in meetings and not answering the phone and stuff like that. But the teacher who was using a lot of strategies, they were really successful. And that teacher had families that spoke Mum. They didn't speak English, but they spoke Mum. They didn't speak Spanish, but they spoke Mum. So that teacher reached out to me and she said, Arcelia, I have a lot of families in my class that speak Mum and I don't know how to help. So like I said, it's all about connections. It's all about partnering. We have in our district an office that supports unaccompanied minors and protects students that are seeking for asylum. And they have a lot of support for our families from Guatemala.
Wow.
So they also have translators for Mum. And so if that teacher didn't talk to me, that teacher wouldn't know that this person exists in that office.
I love it.
So it's all about connection.
I wish there was every
I
wish there was every Arcelia in every district as a whole. And I want to respect our time together, so I want us to be able to answer some questions for the time being, if you're okay with that. So
yeah, sure.
Deborah Brennan asked, our school district is working together to loan computer devices for underserved students. We had a lot of success. Our dilemma is that once students have their devices, they're not doing the work, activities, review, practices we have provided for them. Nothing, nada. How do we get them to better engage? So.
Yeah, well, like I said, there's a lot of families that they don't know how to navigate the system. And when I say the system, I don't mean like the internet, you know, it's the whole district system, the system is different from their countries. So they literally need us to hold their hands and walk them through. We have faced those problems as well. And I have families that speak a little bit of Spanish, but they don't know how to use a device. So we need to guide them. And this is not a one-day work. This is like working from the beginning. Like I said, meeting families where they at and starting from ground level. So we need to make sure that those families understand what it means to log into something and helping students through.
I love that.
I'm pretty sure that sometimes I'm not going to be answering all of those questions, but that's basically what we see a lot right now.
That's really helpful advice, that, you know, creating sort of the cognitive approach or the process approach to just navigating the entire space. And I want to point to what you said, which is making sure that it's living in one space, being able to effectively communicate. One last question from Lorena is, are 2 meals at this point, given sort of the realities, are 2 meals adequate, and how can we help beyond the 2 meals a day program? And in general, like, is there any sort of tips that you have about just the overall well-being as we close off? So.
I'm not sure if this is going to answer your question, but I do want to mention when we work together in our office, we collect resources in one single document. That single document is going around in the whole district, and everybody who has extra resources for families, we just add them into one document. Someone from outside the district is reaching out as well, and they say, hey, Arcelia, you have anything for me? I need to provide to my families. So I go to that document and I know that I'm going to find internet resources. I'm going to find free meals resources. So it's good to keep everything in one place. about churches, community centers, who's giving out meals around the city. Not necessarily because, oh, it's coming from the district, we've got to go to the district. No, we have to make sure that anything that is happening around in the city is available and nearby the families, because you're talking about families going out and using transportation, right? So making sure that you have one single space where you collect all the resources and everybody knows where it lives. You can share those resources with families, from a flyer to a picture to directions, or even a phone call. Anything helps.
Arcelia, you've been amazing. Yeah, I would love to stay on here all day. I want to respect everybody's time. We do have just some talking points that I will link up in a slide at the end for the chat. But Arcelia, any last sort of 10-second takeaway before we let you go? Any sort of inspiring words for us before we let you go?
Well, yeah, I think this is really hard and it's taking a toll on everybody. You need to make sure that you take care of yourself, because if you're not doing well, you won't be able to help. So take care of yourself. Si se puede, you know, we will get through this. And this is just gonna make us all stronger and wiser. So yeah, stay strong, stay safe. Thank you for joining us, and I'm glad to help. Yeah.
Thank you, Arcelia. And thank you to all the teachers and parent liaisons, promotoras, administrators that are out there on the chat that are tuning in today. Thank you for all you're doing as well. We really appreciate everything schools and communities are doing for our kids. So thank you.